Hi friends, I want to talk about a concept today I call repetitive scripts in our minds. And this is both kind of negative repetitive scripts and what I like to call protective positive scripts. So something you hear in Zen sometimes is turn the light inward. And this can be understood on a few different levels. But the level I'm talking about today is getting to know the patterns of your own mind and heart. Buddhism is not therapy, and there are times where therapy is the appropriate kind of path to take. But it is helpful when we are understanding and exploring kind of the world and Buddha nature and the nature of suffering and the Four Noble Truths and all these things to understand how they manifest and embody for us as an individual. And so if you sit meditation for a long time, what most people tend to find and what I have found is that there are certain kind of repetitive patterns that crop up over and over and over and over again. And over time, these can loosen. Sometimes they fall away, and some might be patterns that will be around for a long time. And just like in Zazen, and when we're sitting formal Zazen, we talk about not adding energy to your thoughts, meaning not engaging with them and spinning them up and getting caught up in them, but also not being super aggressive and pushing them away and trying to shut down the mind, because that's a different kind of adding energy. We can do the same thing with these kind of repetitive scripts. And these are going to show up for different people in different ways. I had kind of a rough upbringing. I've talked about that before. And so I have a tendency towards like depressive and angry scripts. And so that means that I have a certain type of protective script that comes as well. And when these things arise, what I'm able to do now, the way I try to engage with them after years and years and years of meditation, is essentially the same thing that I'm doing in Zazen. So when a repetitive script like I'm a piece of shit starts to arise, I try not to engage with it and spin it up and, ruminate on all the reasons I'm a piece of shit and all that kind of stuff. And I also don't try to start justifying to myself why I'm not a piece of shit, because that is a different kind of adding energy to it. And I don't necessarily try to project it like, no, right? I more look at it with a sense of kind of awareness and curiosity. We could say mindfulness. It's a little bit of a buzzword in Buddhism, but mindfulness means just being aware without a commentary or adding a story. So if a feeling of I'm a piece of shit, or that 20-year-old memory where I said or did something stupid arise and I feel that shame run through my body, I can just look at it and say, oh, that's what is arising. And I don't have to add more layers of story or suffering to it. I can see it, be aware that it's arising, and kind of let it go. At the same time, because of my upbringing and my past, some of those protective scripts are kind of the same thing. A very common one for me is, I wish I was the best martial artist in the world. I've been practicing martial arts since I was 7 years old, so 40 years. And because I felt so lost and scared and powerless as a child, when I saw martial arts movies in the 80s, particularly like the wise master type, Mr. Miyagi, or some of the other like kind of wise man on the mountain, and they seem to not be afraid of anything and have all the answers and never be unsure. My child self kind of attached this idea of like, if I become a great martial artist, I will always feel safe and in control and know what's going on. I won't have any sense of discomfort or fear. I will essentially feel safe all the time. And so a habitual protective script has evolved where sometimes just out of the blue, but certainly if I'm having a negative thought or experience, just this like, I wish I was the best martial artist in the world. And so I can just look at it and go, oh, I'm craving the feeling of being safe. Like I can recognize it for what it is, and I don't have to dissect it, because again, this is not therapy. I don't have to be like, well, Mr. Miyagi actually didn't know everything and he had his own stuff, and even if you were the best martial artist in the world, that's not good. I don't have to do all of that. I can just look at it and say, oh, I'm craving the feeling of safety. And maybe I can, take a moment to look around and see what's going on, that if there's something I need to address. But that's it. These negative scripts that are habitual patterns, these protective scripts that are habitual patterns, we can just see them as what they are. That is some of my old angst arising. This is me craving the feeling of safety. And other people are going to have different types. There are people, they get angry when when they don't like something, they want to feel safe. Some people get really depressed. Some people, they go to sleep because they want to avoid, and that's how they're going to feel safe. And so when these repetitive scripts arise, we can just relate to them in kind of a neutral manner. We don't have to dissect them. We don't have to buy into them. We don't have to try to shove them away, because all of those are ways in getting kind of caught up in our own shit, and it's taking us away from seeing what is actually going on. And this is one of the benefits of meditation, I think, is meditation gives you a very safe, stable place to see these patterns arise. And if you sit zazen, especially at the retreats where you're sitting for 8-10 hours every day for multiple days at a time, what I have found, and what most people find, is that you feel like you're chewing old soup. Like eventually your brain just kind of runs out of new ideas and thoughts to shove back up to the top, right? Even the most full garbage disposal, spitting everything out, it's going to run out of new stuff, and you'll be like, oh, there's that one again. There's that one again. There's that one again. And they can lose a lot of their kind of emotional charge. Not all of them. Some of them might be with us until we die, but this way of relating to them is very different. So try not to get down on yourself if you do have repetitive scripts, right? If you find yourself in your meditation or in your day-to-day, some versions of the I'm a piece of shit, or I did this thing 20 years ago and I feel shame, or I want to go to sleep, or I want to be the best martial artist in the world, or whatever your kind of like self-protective script is. Because the ego is a tricky fish and it wants to protect itself. And so especially when it feels under threat, it's going to try to reinforce itself, reify itself. And that's really what the protective scripts are. It's just, it's trying to protect itself. Like being the greatest martial artist in the world, that's a child's way of trying to feel safe, right? And as a Buddhist, I understand that any version of clinging to myself as a fixed form, I know that there's no way for there to be lasting safety in this way. But the child would like to be the best martial artist in the world because the child is feeling, craving safety in that way. And so that's okay, right? Have compassion for that part of yourself. Don't get down on yourself, but also try not to buy into them. Try not to like shove them down aggressively. The more you practice meditation, the more you're able to kind of like see through the stories. And you can incorporate the stories. Like I love martial arts. I love doing them. I spent 4 hours practicing martial arts yesterday, and I hopefully will do that also until I die. And so it's not a problem as long as I don't let myself get deluded by kind of those childlike cravings, misunderstandings, delusions about what safety is. And if I always have some struggles with the pattern of I'm a piece of shit arising, that's okay too. That doesn't get in the way of practice, which is my whole life. So I hope that this was maybe helpful for you. This is a video I've been thinking about for a while, this concept of like negative and protective scripts. I think doesn't get talked a lot about in Zen, but it is one of the things that we learn when we turn that light inward, is we learn how these struggles manifest for us in our own particular lives. And so I hope that this was helpful. Thank you.